we're going to slice and print our first model. Open FlashPrint 5, and then from the File menu, choose Examples and choose the 20 millimeter box. Simple file. I'm zooming in using 2 fingers on my mouse pad, sliding up and down, and I'm able to zoom in. And on my MacBook, if I hold down the Control key and click and drag on the mouse pad, I can rotate around my model. And you'll notice, if you look at it from the bottom, you'll see that it's solid blue. That's indicating that that part of the model is perfectly flat against the build plate, which you always want to make sure is the case. We're going to keep it simple for now. Eventually, as we progress, we'll get into other options that are available through the icons on the side and the menu options along the top. But for now, we'll click Start Slicing. If your options don't look like this, you might be in basic mode, which is fine because we're not going to change anything at this point. But just know that you can click Expert mode and you'll get many more options. Again, for now though, I'm going to stick with all of the defaults and choose Slice. And I can click Slice Preview. And up in the upper right-hand corner, it gives me an estimated print time, 16 minutes. It also gives me an estimate of how much material it's using for this print. 3.16 grams or 1.06 meters. So if you know how much you pay for a kilogram of filament, for instance, you can very easily calculate precisely how much it will cost to print this model. If I zoom in a little bit, you'll notice that there's the cube, but there's something else underneath it. That's called a raft, and by default, FlashPrint 5 includes a raft. And for beginners, that's a good thing because the raft will help the print stick to the print bed, and it will also make up for any minor inconsistencies in the leveling of the bed. As we get further along in the course, we'll talk more about fine-tuning the leveling of the bed so that you can print directly onto the build plate without the use of a raft. But for now, we're going to stick with using the raft. And the raft is designed in such a way that it will peel off easily from the print when it's finished. At the bottom of the screen, there are 2 sliders. The top slider will show you layer by layer how the print is made. So you can see the first layer, it's starting the raft, and then it prints the top solid surface of the raft, and then it starts printing the box. And you'll notice inside it's not solid, there's a honeycomb. So you can control how dense that honeycomb or infill is. If it's 100%, then it would be a completely solid box. If it were 0%, then it would be completely hollow, and anything in between will increase or decrease the density of that infill. So for most prints, they're mostly going to be air in the middle. We don't use a lot of infill unless you're printing a part that needs to be very strong functionally. The bottom slider, by the way, takes you through the movements of the nozzle from the start of that layer to the end of that layer. So you can see precisely what exactly is happening with the nozzle for each layer. And you'll notice also, as I'm moving the sliders around, that the G-code on the side scrolls. So that is the code that is being generated by this slicing program. And It's just a simple text file, and each line is an instruction for the printhead. So first the printhead will drop, or I should say the build plate will drop one layer down in the Z direction, and then the printhead will move in the X and Y direction, laying down a certain amount of filament that's determined by the E code. And once that layer is done, then the next layer will start and it will move again, layer by layer, until the print is complete. At the top, I have two options. I can download the file, save to local, or I can send to printer. So you do have the option of connecting your printer via Wi-Fi and sending the print wirelessly from your computer to your printer. And we'll look at that later in the course. But for now, to keep things simple, I'm going to click download. There's my file. I'm going to save it to a USB drive. And I like to add the print time to the end of the file name so I know how long it's going to take. This one is 16 minutes. I'll click save. There's my USB drive. There's the G-code file. And now I'll eject the disk and put it in the printer. At the printer now, you should have your printer turned on and your filament loaded. If you need a refresher on how to do that, you can refer to earlier lessons. I have my tools, and there's my filament storage box. I'm going to recommend that you put a thin layer of glue stick. That will ensure that the print will have the best chance of sticking. Remember that will wash off with water afterwards, and we can remove the build plate by flipping the switches and removing it and bringing it to the sink. So I'm going to insert the thumb drive with the 20mm box file on it, and I'm going to choose build and USB device, and there's the box, and I'm going to tap copy to copy it over to the printer. Back up. Now I can remove my USB stick and use it for something else, and I'm going to tap the internal memory and the 20mm box, and then tap the middle icon to begin the print. And the nozzle is going to the home position. The print bed already homed itself, so the print will begin shortly. You see there's a little bit of oozing coming out of the nozzle. Don't have to worry about that too much, but if you wish, you can use the tweezers to take that off. The reason the print hasn't started yet is because the print bed, which you can see in the bottom corner here, and also up at the top, is rising in temperature until it reaches 60 degrees Celsius. And once that's done, the nozzle will increase in temperature to 200. So we have to wait for the warm-up to complete before the print starts. The print bed has reached temperature, and now the nozzle is warming up. Both temperatures have been reached, so the print bed is rising, and the print will begin shortly. So the raft is printing. And once the raft is done printing, the cube will also print. And the screen It says that there are about 14 minutes remaining. So we'll come back in 14 minutes and check on the progress. According to the screen, we're on layer 57 of 60, and we have 1 minute remaining. The box is printing the solid top layers at this point. The last layer is printing and is done. The build plate is lowering. Once it lowers all the way, the nozzle will return to the home position, which is the back right corner. And the chime indicates that the print is done. We get the message, build completed. I can tap OK. Now to remove the build plate, we will turn the retaining clips and lift it up and forward. It's still a little warm. So I'm going to move it over and set it down, let it cool off a bit. To remove the print, I'll use the spatula tool, and you don't want to dig down and risk marring the glass surface. You just need to go to get underneath. It might seem impossible at first, but once you get under, the whole thing comes off very easily, including this outer skirt here. And the marks that you see on the print bed are just the glue, where the glue stuck to the model. So again, that'll wash right off with water. You can take the plate, you can take the build plate to the sink and rinse it off. And this raft should just peel right off very easily. So I can throw the raft away. And the bottom of the model is nice and flat, as is the top and the sides. Now you see a little bit of discoloration here. That's from where the raft was attached to the model. You can get rid of that discoloration by using a hair dryer or a heat gun. Be careful not to go too hot because this plastic has a low melting point. But if you just pass a heat gun or a hair dryer over those white areas, they'll darken back up into the nice blue color. That goes for this corner as well here. So there you go. There's your first 3D print.